in the restricted section. Today I'm going to talk about my May TBR jar pick, and then I'm going to draw my pick for June. So in May I drew Darkness at Noon by Arthur Koestler. This is a novel about a man who was working for a communist regime in Russia, and he is captured and imprisoned and psychologically tortured because they're trying to get him to confess to all these ridiculous crimes that he didn't commit. So while he's imprisoned, he's kind of reflecting back on his career and the things that he's done in the name of this regime. So this book, I really enjoyed it. I guess it was first written in German, and it was translated by Daphne Hardy. And I think that the original German manuscript was lost, and so only the English version of it remains. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I thought I read that somewhere. But yeah, this book was really philosophical because, I mean, while he's in prison, he's kind of mulling over the tenets and the teachings of the regime that basically, you do what is in the best interest of the whole and what is helpful for the party as a whole. And so if someone is harmful or detrimental to the party, then they have to be liquidated, and that, the ends justify the means in that case. And so he's having second thoughts about that philosophy while he's in prison, and he's starting to think about some of the individual people that he encountered and some of the things that he did and how that impacted those individuals. I really enjoyed this. I liked how it was written. At some points, some of the dialogue and some of the philosophical arguments between the characters kind of drug on just a little bit for me, and it seemed like they at some points were splitting hairs, but I think that was kind of the point. I liked, there's a man that is imprisoned in the cell next to him, and they have conversations by tapping on the walls. And I kind of liked their relationship because they were two different types of individuals, and the man next door to Rubashov didn't really care for him all that much, but they kind of had this common bond because they were both in prison together. What else? It was interesting to me, too, that there are two men who kind of take over the questioning. They're in charge of the questioning for Rubashov, and one of them is a man that he knows quite well, and who kind of thinks similarly to Rubashov. And then the other one is kind of a newer party inductee, or a newer to power in the party, and he has more harsh methods that he employs to question people. So it's interesting to see the distinction between the two men and how they handle Rubashov, especially with the results that they're trying to get, their intention versus what actually happens. It's interesting. So the next part of what I'm about to say is not spoiler free, so if you don't want spoilers, then maybe skip this next part. So I can't remember the first man's name who was questioning Rubashov, but you get a glimmer of hope, because he basically tells him, look, if you write this statement or whatever confessing to such and such crimes, then there's a chance you'll be sent away, but you can continue living or whatever. Well, he ends up getting arrested and shot, and then the other man, Gelkin, takes over the questioning, and his methods are much harsher, and he doesn't allow Rubashov to sleep. He sits him under a hot light, and in the end, Rubashov ends up getting shot. He gets executed. And the description of that, I thought, was really... It sounds fucked up, but I liked the description of it. I obviously don't like that he got shot, but okay, it says, a dull blow struck the back of his head. He had long expected it, and yet it took him unawares. He felt, wondering, his knees give away, and his body whirl around in a half-turn. How theatrical, he thought as he fell, and yet I feel nothing. He lay crumpled up on the ground, with his cheek on the cool flagstones. It got dark. The sea carried him rocking on its nocturnal surface. Memories passed through him like streaks of mist over the water. Outside, someone was knocking on the front door. He dreamed that they were coming to arrest him, but in what country was he? He made an effort to slip his arm into his dressing gown sleeve, but whose color print portrait was hanging over his bed and looking at him? Was it number one or was it the other? He with the ironic smile or he with the glassy gaze? A shapeless figure bent over him. He smelt the fresh leather of the revolver belt, but what insignia did the figure wear on the sleeves and the shoulder straps of its uniform, and in whose name did it raise the dark pistol barrel? A second smashing blow hit him on the ear, then all became quiet. There was the sea again with its sounds. A wave slowly lifted him up. It came from afar and traveled sedately on, a shrug of eternity. I just liked that description. So, I mean, that's kind of fucked up because it's the part where he gets shot and dies, but I liked the way that it was written. Okay, so I'm done with spoilers now. But yeah, I think I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. So yeah, it was pretty good. So now I'm going to draw my TBR jar pick for June. And if you'll notice, I have a bit of a different TBR jar now. My husband was cleaning and he was dusting the bookshelf, and my other TBR jar fell and shattered on his noggin. So he found this replacement TBR jar for me, and so this is what I use now. So let's see. Lilith by J.R. Salamanca. Alright, so this is a book that I got at a library sale. Honestly, it first caught my attention because I really like the cover. So, this is about, it says, Lilith is a powerfully drawn portrait of innocence corrupted by evil, an evil so brilliant, so beautiful, so imaginatively conceived that even its violence and amorality have a fantastic splendor of their own. This is the evil of Lilith, a wildly deranged young girl who creates for herself a strange paradise of sexual ecstasy, a fantasy world of poetry and passion, which she inhabits in preference to the real world of the sane. Her world has its own language, its own philosophy, its own music and art, all exquisitely constructed and richly sensual in their design. And it has its own religion, a religion that demands an insidious and dreadful form of human sacrifice. So there you have it. There's my TBR jar pick for June. So we'll see how this gem is. I think it had fairly decent reviews on Goodreads, if I remember correctly. But I could be mistaken. So that's going to be it for me today. As usual, there'll be some links down below where you can find Sue and I elsewhere on social media. And if you're not already subscribed to the restricted section, you should do it. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.